Thanks so much for joining us for another edition of our Open Mic program. And we do have on this Veterans Day, Senator John Boozman with us. And Senator, thanks so much for taking time and talking with us.
Hey, Bob. Thank you so much for having me on this special day. And thank you for all the great work that you do supporting veterans, not only on Veterans Day, but throughout the year. I know that we have discussed this group on many, many occasions and how much we respect and admire their sacrifice. And like I say, thanks for doing it. Not just on Veterans Day, but throughout the year.
Now, one thing we really try to encourage, and this is something I want to do beginning and the end of our broadcast, and that is if they have any questions about veterans issues for a spouse, themselves, for an aunt, uncle, relative, or even a friend, to give your office a call, because you guys are A+. I tell you, this is something I think our entire delegation takes serious, and that's veterans issues.
No, they really do. And in my case, my dad did 20 some odd years in the Air Force, retired. So I grew up in an Air Force family and realized that these are not give me, these are earned benefits, and certainly understand the sacrifice. But yeah, if any of your listeners have any problems at all that they need to be handled. In fact, let me give you the Little Rock office number real quick. It's 501-372-7153. And that's the Little Rock office. They should give us a call. All kinds of different things come up. Sometimes it's a disability concern. Sometimes it's eligibility for veterans health care. Maybe somebody's passed away or about to pass away and they can't find the documentation they need to be buried in a national cemetery. The list is almost endless. But certainly if they're having problems, they should be sure and holler at us.
One thing that we noticed when talking about veterans issues, President Donald Trump signed into law the Commander John Scott Hannon Veterans Mental Health Improvement Act, which that was something you led strongly. And part of that was boosting the VA suicide prevention support, but also the Military Times just published a column talking about what your work did. This is very, very important.
Well, we actually teamed up with Senator Warner from Virginia, a Democrat. That's the great thing about veterans issues is this isn't Republican or Democrat. This is all about everybody pulling together to help our veterans. So what we found was that about 20 veterans commit suicide each year. The problem is 10 years ago, about 20 veterans committed suicide each day. And so we said, look, we've spent billions of dollars trying to reduce that number, reducing that 20 a day, and yet we're not having success. So what have said is we're going to put metrics into the program. We're going to make sure that the programs that are being funded are actually working. Those that aren't working, we're going to get rid of. We're going to plus up the ones that are. And then also, we're going to expand it, which is desperately needed, particularly in rural America, where we just don't have as much veterans presence in the sense of health care, VA health care, the veterans to give grants to the people in communities that do such a great job of actually solving the problem. Only about 6 veterans that commit suicide are in the VA system. The other 14 are outside. And so this also will allow us to capture those 14, provide them some help, and then also push them into the VA system where they can get additional care. So it's a good thing. And the people of Arkansas, the people of America want us to work together. And I think this is a great example, again, of senators coming together, Republicans and Democrats, working on a very important problem that's a difficult problem, pushing forward, and hopefully we'll see some results in the next year.
And there's another thing that we don't talk about a lot with veterans, breaking out male and female, but supporting women veterans. The Senate VA committee advanced the Deborah Sampson Act, which you were a supporter of, and things have changed. When I remember this story, which is I met a man, matter of fact, on Saturday, we did a veterans program in Rosebud, Arkansas. I met a man that is actually in the museum of the Midway. That is the USS Midway in San Diego, in the port there. And I visited that with my family probably 10, 15 years ago. And while we were going through the tour, through a former Midway, a Navy man that was on that ship, he took us through the tour, and he looked across the bow there, and he says, "You see that? That's the USS Reagan." And there's 2 differences between that aircraft carrier and this one. And he asked our group, what was the difference? I had no idea. I mean, I couldn't even answer it. It looks the same to me. They're both gray,
Right.
And I thought maybe it was just the difference of the airplanes, but it wasn't. He said it was because women can serve on the Reagan. They couldn't serve here, and that was nuclear. And things are changing. It's nothing, and that's why we have to change all the time and look at that. And that's why this Deborah Sampson Act is very important.
Well, they've changed dramatically, as you point out. And the aircraft story is just a great example of that. Sadly, not sadly, it's just the times. Our VA hospitals, many of them are older, and so they were constructed for a primarily male clientele. That's changed, as you point out, dramatically and is continuing to change. And so with it, the VA is changing. So I teamed up with Senator Tester from Montana, again, Republican on my side, Democrat on his, and we co-sponsored this legislation that will make sure that female veterans are getting the care that they need in an appropriate setting with the appropriate specialist. So these are good things. It's just an effort to continue to modernize the VA system and make sure that all of our veterans are getting the appropriate care that they need. But we've got a bunch of female veterans now. We're so proud of them, and those numbers are growing daily as more and more women choose the military as a career.
Now, there's a couple of things, too, that also happened with the VA, and this is something I think it goes to the veterans of the Vietnam War era, and I remember us talking about that, and that's the Expansion Act of 2020, legislation including a provision that you authored, aims to reduce the veterans' compensation and pension examining backlog. That was something that was kind of difficult there, and we got that fixed.
We have, we've got a problem in a sense with COVID and things like, well, primarily COVID. The VA examinations have backed up. And so what we've done is allow more people to give those exams. So many of the providers' offices were closed because they weren't able to see patients at the height of the epidemic. And now, sadly, our numbers are spiking back up. So this is more of a problem right now as we speak than it was even a few months ago. So what it does is it expands the ability of other providers to give veterans physicals, the preliminary exams. You can't go further until you have that on record. And so it's just an effort to make sure that our veterans that have disability claims, that we don't get that to where it's backed up, where we have several 100,000 plus. We've worked really hard to reduce those numbers, and so it is backing up right now. So hopefully this will help reduce that.
And the second part was the Vietnam War era. It recognized the war era from November 1st, 55 to May 15th of 75. Explain why that's so important.
Bob, this is a crazy thing, and I didn't really realize it was that way till, a veteran talked to us about this. And you have the Department of Defense, in other words, the active duty military. They have a certain date for when the Vietnam War occurred. And you just mentioned it. The VA, though, the date that they have is February 28th, 1961 to May 7th, 1975. So there's about 5-6 years in there that the Department of Defense had people over there, small groups that were in there helping, advising, fighting alongside the Vietnamese. So DOD said that's when the war started. The people that were there, have benefits. VA said no, it started 5 or 6 years later. And so as a result, there's a whole group of people, not a great deal of people, but people that were there fighting, risking their lives during the Vietnam War before the VA says it even started. So what we're trying to do is make it such that those people are allowed to have their benefit, just like everybody else that served in Vietnam. And the good news is that those things are moving along, and hopefully we can get all that squared away so that they can be recognized as Vietnam veterans, and then also get the benefits that they deserve if they've got something that's service-connected as a result of those years of service.
So that's something we need to stress. Again, if you're a Vietnam veteran, it has expanded. They may have been denied before, but if you served before 1961, back to
Right.
November 1st and 55, and even
And
after
really,
May the 7th. That's big news, really.
it is, and there's actually people on the wall here in Washington. You know, the great commemorative monument of the Vietnam War that aren't listed as veterans by the VA. So it's kind of a crazy thing, but it's something that we're working hard in a very bipartisan way to fix. These are all things that some of them are really big things, some of them are smaller things. They impact people, and for the people that they impact, they're huge.
Okay, we're going to wrap up this program, but we want to remind, if you're a veteran and if you haven't used the VA services, they need to contact your office if they got any questions, because your people are just A1. They do a fantastic job, and it's all about veterans today.
Well, we appreciate it, and you're right. It's all about veterans, and certainly anything my staff can do. Our veteran service officers throughout the counties do a great job, and then also the rest of the delegation work very, very hard to meet the needs of veterans.
I appreciate you taking time and talking to us on this Veterans Day.
Thank you so much, as always, for having me.